Hi, and welcome to Abundance, the Whole Truth. This is an introduction to energy with your host, Violet Spring. Energy is everything, and everything is energy. And the universe is the ultimate source of this infinite and abundant energy that gives life to everything in our world and worlds far beyond our dimension. There are plenty of theories out there about where we came from and why we exist, but often they are either overly scientific and feel like you need a degree in rocket science as they are so difficult to comprehend, or they get a bit too woo-woo and feel like people would be out of their mind, crazy even, to believe any of it. Not that anything is wrong with these theories, ideas, or concepts, as truthfully, I enjoy reading and learning about both science and metaphysics. And I must admit, I have a huge interest in pretty much anything supernatural. But there also must be some degree of logic or believability to the information, or I get bored and move on. So, in presenting my theory, as it relates to how the law of attraction really works, let's begin with the first truth, as it relates to everything the law of attraction has to offer, and the potential it has to affect everything you think, say, do, and believe in every aspect of your life hereafter. Abundance truth number 1. The 12 universal laws contain elements of business, science, and metaphysics, and all three elements are the catalyst for how foundation, structure, and process are the reason behind what, how, when, where, and why we attract and manifest the abundance we truly desire, or that which we are meant to have in the present moment. Before I get started in all of the complexities and intricacies of how the universe works in terms of being macro and micro, I first want to go ahead and warm you up to the idea that universe is a masterpiece of perfection. And once it formed its cell and created the framework to make it work in its divine perfection, it replicated itself infinitely over and over again, thereby creating the flower of life. Each replicated cell contains layers which consist of a blueprint or master plan for each dimension's existence, evolution, expansion, and survival. While I can't really depict the layers in the images that I'm providing, I assure you they are there. And as we go along, I will provide an in-depth explanation of just what they do, how they work from a business, human, and spiritual perspective, and their relation to attracting and manifesting abundance in our third dimension, our Earth. Now, while I'm on the subject of dimensions, it is a very interesting topic and something that I cover briefly in this book, but as I don't have expert knowledge of other dimensions beyond our Earth, I'm a little bit limited in providing a detailed explanation about how their individual blueprints are designed and work. However, I can provide a little information about their location and what they are as they relate to our collective consciousness and our divine connection to all existence. So here's my interpretation of that. I call it the 12 dimensions of consciousness. In the first dimension is time. The second dimension is space. The third dimension is Earth, otherwise known as humankind. The fourth dimension is ether, which is considered to be the veil between human existence and spiritual enlightenment, also known as the astral plane. In the fifth dimension is where the Akashic records are stored. The sixth dimension is where the light beings reside. The seventh dimension is where the angels and archangels reside. The eighth dimension is where souls reside. The ninth dimension is where dimensional beings reside. The dimension is also known as the underworld, where Gaia, lower energies and the Arcturian Council reside. The 10th dimension is where the ascended masters, like Jesus and Mohammed, they reside there. In the 11th dimension, that's where the galactic beings reside, and the Galactic Council, that's where that happens to be. And then in the 12th dimension, that is the interstellar gateway and highest point of ascension within our universal blueprint. And if you want to know any more about all of these dimensions, my best suggestion would be to use Google and go look it up. Everybody has their own take on things, and this is just my interpretation. Now that we've covered an introduction to energy, we're in part 1, section 1, the business of energy at the macro level. The universe is the foundation by which all things are created and made possible. It is supremely intelligent with a highly sophisticated mission, and based on my theory, the mission of the universe is to create all forms of matter and supply the universal energy needed for all its creations to exist, evolve, expand, and survive. In effort to achieve this mission, 3 things are required. Number 1, an endless supply of energy. Number 2, a structure to provide order, stability, and balance. And number 3, a process to carry out its mission. For this explanation, let's give these 3 things a name and call them the macroverse. To break this down the easiest way that I know how, let's think of the universe as the corporation or foundation of a business. As the foundation is the big boss in charge of the entire business, or in this case, all existence. Aside from designing and assigning universal blueprints to the dimensions it creates, it has 2 primary functions. Number 1, supplier of all energy, and number 2, creation of all matter. Now that we have a better understanding of what the foundation does, let's give it a title and call it the Company Executive Officer, or CEO, as it is the universal foundation of all existence. Since this CEO requires a means to distribute its supply of energy as well as receive energy from the matter it creates, it then created an operations center and gave it a separate mission, also with 2 primary functions. Number 1, direct the incoming and outgoing supply of energy and matter where it needs to go, and number 2, to provide order, stability, and balance for it to safely reach its destination. This operations center can be identified as the structure of the organization, and if given a title, it could be named the Director of Operations, or DOP, or what we actually know as time in dimension number 1, and space in dimension number 2. In effort to support time and space with its mission, the CEO also created the components needed to manage the flow and distribution of incoming and outgoing energy in the physical realm, which we refer to as atmosphere, and a place to store its creations, or matter, which we refer to as dimensions. The atmosphere and dimensions are where all the action of our physical realm is made possible, and as such, they have each been assigned with senior executive level management and decision-making authority that gives them power to direct, support, and maintain order in the physical realm, as well as identify and remove all potential risk factors and threats from entering. This executive level management role can also be titled as the Chief Risk Officer, or CRO, as they are the risk management department of the business and are directly responsible for ensuring the survival of matter in every dimension throughout the universe. Just to further clarify, there are 2 layers to the atmosphere. The first layer is the external atmosphere, which is a component of space and time at the macroverse level, where risk assessment and prevention are administered to protect against potential risks and threats from entering each dimension. The second layer is the internal atmosphere, which is a component within each dimension and part of the microverse level, where the blueprint for each dimension is administered and managed according to the CEO's specified requirements to ensure existence, evolution, expansion, and survival of matter in each dimension. Note, each dimension is numbered. For example, first, second, third, fourth, fifth dimensions, and so on, while atmosphere is not numbered. In my theory, I believe it is highly probable that no two dimensions are alike, and the way in which the CEO defines each blueprint per dimension specifications is probably not the same within our dimension as it is in others. The blueprint foundation may have the same structural synchronicities, but the internal workings may be vastly different from that of our third dimension. But wait, there is one more thing the CEO needs in order to connect this inner layer together so it can provide the necessary functions required to maintain stability, order, and balance within each dimension, and that is the continuum. Once the structure is all connected by the continuum, the CEO then replicates this cell or foundation and structure infinitely. This ensures that throughout what is now known as the time and space continuum, everything is connected to everything else, no matter where the CEO replicates it on the flower of life. And by the way, when I say it's connected to everything, everything includes all other structures within its vast foundation. In addition, as with all business, there needs to be a clearly defined set of laws and rules in place to protect the integrity and survival of the business, which is where the 12 universal laws that I will explain shortly and the 7 immutable universal rules I mentioned earlier are part of the dimensional blueprint, and somewhat like an employee handbook for all matter or humankind in the physical realm, at least within the third dimension, to follow and adhere to in order to receive abundance rewards for a job well done and or be subjected to abundance consequences when violations occur. As no two dimensions are alike, these rules and laws are likely to be dimension-specific, and while they are administered and managed by and through the atmosphere, they were originally designed, created, and set in motion by the CEO through each dimension's blueprint. And voila! There you have it, our macroverse foundation, mission, structure, and process in all its infinite glory. Pretty cool, eh? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and quickly recap how this universal foundation, structure, and process works on a macro level. Now, there's a lot of abbreviations, but I will try to explain them as we go. So, the universe, or CEO, creates an inner layer to house its universal space and time, which is also known as the structure, or Director of Operations, the DOP, which is responsible for directing the incoming and outgoing supply of energy and matter where it needs to go, and provides a blueprint specific to each dimension that ensures structure and process are administered and maintained according to its mission and divine order of operation. The CEO, or universe, then creates the components, or otherwise known as the Chief Risk Officer, needed to support the DOP, or Director of Operations, with managing the flow and distribution of incoming and outgoing energy in the physical realm, known as the external atmosphere, and a place to store its creations or matter, known as dimensions, and adds these components to its inner layer. Number 3, the CEO connects the DOP layer with the CRO components by way of the continuum, or the center and connection to everything, which humankind refers to as the time and space continuum. It then replicates itself infinitely with this energetic macro level layer, and then provides a blueprint of dimension-specific support systems, universal laws, and rules for distribution to each individual dimension where and when required. Number 4, the CEO creates and provides an endless supply of energy and matter to the DOP. So basically, the foundation supplies the energy to the structure. Then the DOP divvies out the supply to the CRO, which is the Chief Risk Officer. So the DOP is the Director of Operations, the CRO is the Chief Risk Officer, otherwise known as time and space. Okay, so the CRO pushes the supply into the appropriate dimension by way of the time and space continuum. Number 7, the dimension provides shelter and protection for the supply to ensure its existence, evolution, expansion, and survival. That is all big picture logic, or what I refer to as the macroverse, which not only works in our time and space continuum located in the 3rd dimension, as the CEO also extends its mission into other dimensions and provides a dimension-specific blueprint to all the dimensions it creates. I hope my brief explanation helped to give you some insight about the macroverse foundation, mission, structure, and process. And now that I've described how the macroverse does business, I bet you're curious about the microverse. So let's dive right into section 2 and explore the inner workings of the microverse. Okay, so now that we're done with the macroverse, we are now moving into part 1, section 2, the business of energy at the microverse level. Before we get started, I just kind of want to recap and give a little bit of information here. So, as mentioned earlier, no 2 dimensions are alike, and as such, the CEO's blueprint may or may not include the internal atmosphere with different levels of management as per dimension specifications on the microverse level. The information that I'm sharing is purely theoretical and based on my instincts, intuitions, research, training, spiritual guidance, and knowledge of the 3rd dimension and blueprint specifications. So when I talk about these things, I'm actually talking about them in terms of a business. I figure it's probably the easiest way to understand something because you're talking about having hierarchy. So you have a top down, and you start at the very top, and you have the top is the CEO, and the CEO is, in this case, the universe. And then when you step down from there, the universe has also made the second in charge, or second in command, which is the Director of Operations, and that is time and space. And then from there, the next one over from them is going to be dimension and external atmosphere, and that is the Chief Risk Officer. Okay, so those are the very top tier management positions within the universe. Okay, now we move over into the microverse, and there's a whole new subset of managers and micromanagers and all that kind of fun stuff. So as we get into it, I hope it makes more sense. So the universe is the foundation by which all things are created and made possible. It is supremely intelligent with a highly sophisticated mission, and based on my theory, the mission of the universe is to create all forms of matter and supply the universal energy for all its creations to exist, evolve, expand, and survive. So that is still the same. It's still the exact same mission statement that it was in the first part. And now that we're in the second part, it hasn't changed. So now it is just that we're in the microverse, and the microverse is the control center for everything that happens within each dimension and is titled as the internal atmosphere, otherwise known as the micro foundation, which the CEO assigns to every dimension upon creation. Since the internal atmosphere is the highest ranking layer within the microverse, the CEO appointed it as the Chief Operations Officer, or COO, with junior executive level power, and designated it with two primary functions. Number one, implementing the CEO's internal dimension mission and blueprint for all matter to exist, evolve, expand, and survive. And number two, provide immediate response to any and all incoming, outgoing threats that pose potential risk to the integrity of the CEO's blueprint. Now, just to clarify, at macro level, the Director of Operations and the Chief Risk Officer are in senior level management positions, while the micro level positions are junior level management and supervisory positions. Much like the macroverse, and depending on the CEO's blueprint, the COO must also require a layer to house its operations center or structure, which is assigned by the CEO upon creation, where and when needed. In the third dimension, the structure can be identified as the Chief Compliance and Security Officer, or CCSO. And the primary functions assigned to the CCSO are number one, direct and disperse the incoming and outgoing flow of energy and matter according to the CEO's blueprint. And number two, provide order, stability, and balance for it to safely reach its destination. Below the CCSO within the third dimension are the next several layers we can define as the management team or support system for the microverse. The support system is likened to various departments one would find in an organization and assigned with two primary responsibilities. Number one, the protection, order, stability, and balance for the third dimension. And number two, ensuring safety and compliance remains constant in order with the CEO's blueprint. These departments are situated in three layers. The first layer is known as the exosphere, ionosphere, and thermosphere, and consists of general managers or GMs, and the GMs are responsible for providing direct oversight for everything that happens within the third dimension. These GMs are subordinate to the CCSO, and a large part of their function deals with managing the distribution of energy, frequency, and vibration on both internal and external levels of the COO. The second layer is subordinate to the first layer and designated to support the first layer and are comprised of the district managers, or the DMs. The DMs are assigned to control the inner workings of our world, our solar system, and all forms of energy and matter on Earth. They are also known as the mesosphere, stratosphere, and troposphere. These DMs are created by the CEO and per blueprint specifications are assigned by the COO to assist and support the role of the CCSO. Both layers are assigned with executive junior management authority. And lastly, the third layer encompasses lower level management known as regional managers, or RMs, of the business hierarchical structure, also created by the CEO and assigned to support the role of the DMs. These regional managers are responsible for maintaining the order, safety, and stability of our world, or the nanoverse, individual planets, solarverse, and humankind, Uverse, according to the CEO's blueprint specifications. So let's quickly recap this divine order of operation, foundation, and structure in its entirety. In the macroverse, which is a self-replicating cell, or the outermost layer of all energy and matter, also known as the universe, it has a foundation, which is the universe. And it's also known as the company executive officer or CEO. And then it has a structure, which is time in the first dimension and space in the second dimension. And they're known as the director of operations, or DOP, and they're subordinate to the CEO. Then you have the components of the director of operations, and those are the external atmosphere and dimensions. So we have those labeled as the chief risk officer, the CRO, and they are subordinate to the director of operations, the DOP. Now we go to the connection point, and that is called the continuum, and it is the center point that connects the CEO, the DOP, and the CRO together. So once connection is made, it becomes the time and space continuum, subordinate to the CEO, and they all have senior executive level authority. So they're the top of the food chain. And then you drop down and you go into the microverse, and the microverse is the innermost layer of the third dimension. And it has the micro foundation, which is the internal atmosphere. And it is called the Chief Compliance and Security Officer, the CCSO. And it is subordinate to the Director of Operations, or the DOP, with senior level authority. Then you have the microstructure, which is composed of general management, district management, and regional management. So GM, DM, and RM. These management teams are the support system for the third dimension with junior executive level authority, GM and DM, and supervisor authority in the regional managers' positions. So in layer 1, the GMs, which are the general managers, they're subordinate to the CCSO, and they are the exosphere, ionosphere, and thermosphere. And then in layer 2, we have the DMs, which are subordinate to the GMs, and they are the mesosphere, the stratosphere, and the troposphere. And then we have layer 3, which are the RMs, and they're subordinate to the DMs and are the nanoverse, solarverse, and Uverse. As the concept may seem difficult to process and understand through written perspective, I have also made a chart and I'm sharing that with you as well, because I think you need to see kind of from that perspective, not just me talking about it, but how it actually would look on a piece of paper. So there you go. Since we've covered the macroverse and the microverse, we are now going to cover part 1, section 3, the 3 keys to abundance. Since the space I occupy within our third dimension is within the nanoverse, I am only able to share information based on my learning, research, training, and life experiences, and what I believe is the CEO's blueprint for our Uverse foundation, structure, and process, as well as provide more clarity about how we as a collective and we as individuals can tap into the structure, process of our Uverse and more easily and consistently attract and manifest the abundance we truly desire. There are 3 things in our Uverse that apply to pretty much everything we do, because as humans, we are driven to achieve happiness, fulfillment, and success in all areas of our lives. Although we may not attract and manifest all the things in their fullest capacity, it seems we always strive for at least one thing, whether it's to have, be, or do more or better in our business and personal relationships, work and career, finances, mental and physical health, and spirituality. So, what 3 things do we need to achieve happiness, fulfillment, and success, and manifest the abundance we truly desire? Number 1 is foundation. Remember, I stated the universe is the foundation by which all things are created and made possible. This is very important, as it is also the primary foundation directly responsible for supplying energy to fuel our creation, existence, evolution, expansion, and survival, and the very reason we exist in the time-space, this atmosphere, and this dimension. Everything requires a foundation. Think of it this way. If you try to build a house without a foundation, the walls won't stand up. The same is true if you try to build a life without a foundation. There will be nothing to stabilize the structure. Fortunately, the universe is the foundation for building our lives. But just like the universe, building life in our you-verse also requires a structure and process to provide and maintain order, stability, and balance. Number 2 is structure. The structure of our you-verse is comprised of the 12 universal laws. These universal laws are not only essential for the law of attraction to work, they are essential to the universal mission and blueprint, as they hold the keys to unlocking the door to how we attract and manifest the abundance we truly desire, or the abundance we are meant to have in the present moment. And number 3 is process. Process is both the macro and the micro levels, and while I have already described the more technical part of the process at the macro level, there is one more thing I need to add about the macro level process. This macro level process also includes both creation and destruction. As creation takes a lot of energy, and destruction is how the energy is repurposed and sent back into the continuum for the universe to provide more energy to fuel its mission and create more dimensions and matter to exist, evolve, expand, and survive. Think of destruction like recycling plastics, cans, and bottles in effort to repurpose into other goods. This process isn't pretty, but it is necessary to help our environment. Although destruction on our planet can be devastating, it's a necessary part of the process in effort to fulfill the mission of the universe on a macro level. This process continues in an endless cycle to provide and maintain order, stability, and balance for itself and all its creations. Creation and destruction are a normal part of the process, and this process is what powers the universe to continue its ongoing mission. And through this process of creation, existence, evolution, expansion, survival, and destruction, the universe is continuously able to provide an endless supply of energy to fuel the creation of more dimensions and more matter to occupy the time and space continuum, as after all matter is energy, and all energy needs a place to go. And so continues the cycle of universal creation, existence, evolution, expansion, survival, and destruction. This process from our you-verse perspective in the third dimension is constructed from the divine order of operation through the 12 universal laws, which I will cover next. Thanks for watching this edition of Insights, courtesy of Matters and Facts with Violet Spring. If you liked my content and want to see more, please leave a comment below, give it a like, share it with your network, and subscribe. And remember to click the notification bell to get notified when new Matters and Facts arrive.